We have come to the end of the day of questioning of Emily Apple at the Undercover Policing Inquiry. She has given an absolutely barnstorming performance. Fantastic witness. I think she ended on a massive high, listing out all the ways in which things which the inquiry should be doing, ways in which the SDS sort of set the narrative for the repressive political situation we currently find ourselves in. I'm joined by Chris Bryan of the Undercover Research Group and regular of this parish. What do you make of what happened?
All day Emily's been amazing, covering a lot of ground. There's so much to consider what she said today. Gave a great speech at the end, basically, which received quite a good round of applause, which Ming stopped objecting to the rounds of applause.
He objected to the crowd for quite some time.
And I think Gad also, Ming was relatively nice to her at the end. He said thank you.
He called her striking.
Yeah.
Which is, what my grandmother would say when she thought something was ugly. But I don't know. I don't think it's that what she meant. I hope that's not what he meant.
No. I think we also heard a lot of Emily's written statement is 172 pages, and we didn't cover all of that in detail
Not
today.
at all.
But we did hear, many instances of police harassment, police violence on arrest. It's interesting. Emily she actually spoke about the difference between sort of like physical violence and the harassment violence and the mental thing. It's good to talk about that separately, but I would definitely describe some of the arrests and Emily's treatment in police custody as violence.
100%.
And you got injured a number of times.
They were really distressing to witness. I think I'm sure you were there for some of them. When we talk about the fact that the FIT hated Emily Apple, we're not, we're not like using hyperbole here at all. It was very, very blatant that they hated her. It was violent on purpose. There was a vindictiveness and a sadism towards the way that she was treated.
Yeah, one of the points that was made by Emily was that maybe part of that was motivated by the fact that they were getting intelligence reports via the SDS saying that not only was she wanted to campaign against the FIT teams who FIT watch, but she actually wanted to find out their home addresses and terrorize their families, which wasn't true. Just point out, that was never considered a plan.
No,
but if this information was being disseminated to the public order unit, to CO11, and then this is drips through, you can imagine what the officers' reaction to that would be. It was bad enough even without that information, I should say. But
absolutely. But it does show that this symbiotic relationship that you talked about, the SDS had with the FIT, and really, as she said, the forward intelligence must be called to the inquiry. They must give evidence at the inquiry. You will not get a full picture of the reality of what the policing of protest was like at the time without the FIT officers giving evidence.
Yeah, and there's also a couple of bits she pointed out, both actually also by Michael Dell, where it was clear that, one specifically one where it was clear that the SDS information led to targeting by FIT teams at Emily and others to stop them protesting. So they was, it was clear that they were just used as a tool to stop people exercising, to put it in Emily's terms, Article 10 and 11 rights, the right to protest, right to freedom of expression. So,
I think that's really key because it's very clear that the police were using bail conditions as a form of punishment.
We already knew that, didn't we?
Well, as she said, we've always known that. It's been a really key part of the experience of being a protester and on the receiving end of police repression. But to see it being in the statements of undercover police to show that that's exactly what they thought it was as well. It's just vindicating, but.
Yes, the weaponization. How if you like, the process becomes a punishment.
Yes.
So rather than it, obviously, you're supposed to be punished in court or given a sentence in court. It isn't for the police to punish you, but that's what was happening.
And that is what continues to happen, right? Because that's the key thing, is that the narrative of the legacy of the SDS was the narrative they created, which continues through this day. She talked about getting subject access requests from SO15 and the same language, the same bullshit appearing in those reports as we see in the SDS reports.
And one of the other issues she touched on was the fact that she launched a civil action about harassment by the police, and that action didn't succeed on harassment because they said that she couldn't prove that the police were acting with a single mind. There was no organising apparatus behind the harassment. They were all treated as single instances, but we now know clearly that there was a single mind. This harassment was motivated by these intelligence reports, and there was like liaison, and it was like obviously it'd been signed off by senior officers at a very high level. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We were taking through a whole bunch of reports, but one of them, which I think you probably have got a fair bit to say on, was quite interesting, was that final arrest of an undercover officer with the arrest of HN18 Robert Hastings, alongside Emily Apple at Dicey 2007, that ends up closing down the unit.
I mean, there's a few things to say. There's so many things to say about that. First of all, it was clearly a pretext to shut down the unit. There have been a number of arrests and convictions of SDS officers in their cover name, like loads already. So clearly it was used as a pretext. They were, Frankie Flood, McKinley.
Yes,
I keep saying McKinley were used that as to shut down the unit. That is true. One of the things actually in her interview, wasn't it, that Hastings says basically that was a success because again those arrests meant that all those activists were put on police bail at the beginning of the arms exhibition, Dicey, and therefore they couldn't cause more trouble, and therefore it was money saving.
And I mean, he says this was an intentional operation. You kind of made it like I went to get arrested with everybody, so they were all out of the way for the rest of the week.
And there was a whole bunch of sort of things about that that he justified his involvement in the arrest because he was like hauled over the coals for this. Basically, he couldn't leave the meeting in the squad beforehand, and Emily pointed out, of course, that just because you go to an action planning meeting, I've actually been to those kind of I've been asked to go to those level of meetings when I was an activist, and I thought, I'm not really up for that. I've done that, on more than one occasion. I was
Chris Brian is bottling it, shocking.
Yeah, you guys are crazy. I'm out of here. No, I mean,
so not credible at all from him. And I mean, I think we saw sort of a foreshadowing of it in the request for solicitor's advice that we saw earlier about the once only option of kind of dealing with the problem of another undercover officer being arrested in a false identity, and it's like this idea that if this happens in future, we'll have to close the unit.
Yeah, exactly.
There was, we saw a lot of other reports. We saw a lot of other like absolutely bullshit information that existed in the authorization documents of these officers.
One thing that Emily really wanted to talk about, the fact that she had a marker on her police record as being violent, even though she has no convictions for violence, not even one for public disorder. And public disorder convictions are pretty easy to pick up. You don't have to do much. You just have to swear at a copper, for instance.
I mean, the fact that she's never had that and 76 arrests, there's a sign of how calm, and as people will have seen with her evidence, how calm and collected she is. I mean, really, it's incredible. I mean, there's no way I would have gone through that and not ended up with the charge.
Exactly. So, this was completely unjustified, probably the result of, at least partially, of the intelligence reports that were being fed in,
and a malicious, vindictive attack on her as a person, which kind of continued, throughout her activist life, which continues to this day. I mean, she said her ultimate fuck you to the SDS was continuing to trust people, continuing to work with people, to continue to get out on the streets and mobilize and organize against all the terrible things that are happening in this world. And she did give a really, really rousing speech at the end. It didn't sound like a speech; it sounded like her talking off the cuff. I'm pretty sure she was just, talking about the sense of hope that we used to have, about the fact that we've now in a situation of rising fascism, of runaway climate change, of a society that's dictated to by arms companies, with endless wars. And that we could have averted all those things if we had been given the opportunity, if we'd given a fair crack. To oppose them in the way that we were trying to in the 1990s, that maybe we wouldn't be in the situation we are now. It's that feeling of loss that I think a lot of us have expressed over the years. One thing which really came home to me was that I felt a huge amount of anger listening to Emily. And I think anybody listening would, but I think certainly if you were there back in the late 2000s with when the fit were really like when she talked about the switch in the fit when they got much more violent after 2007, that and I think it was my anger about the forward intelligence teams that really like fueled me when we found out about the existence of undercover officers in our movements. My desire to like kind of really kind of hammer against the spy cops, I think, was born out of my anger about what the fit were doing.
I mean, I think one of the things that when I thought about it in those terms, with the knowledge of the undercovers, like. Why it was like okay, so I had these undercovers in the meetings, but we know that they were all outside. They were photographing us coming in and out. Those meetings were open meetings. There was nobody on the door saying "Can't come in, mate." Was there? Anybody could have just walked in. So, I mean, obviously, most people's probably. I think Emily. I don't know if Emily's the most targeted by the fair. Probably.
I would have thought so. Yeah, maybe.
But I think it was more widespread than that, and it was I think I actually talked maybe before. Like it was quite a stressful thing to go to a meeting. I mean, I didn't really like masking up to go to a meeting. It wasn't like something I wanted to do. It wasn't like I thought was cool. It was like I remember. Maybe I think it was actually turning up to a meeting by myself. And then, like, the first thing you see isn't like your mates, your comrades. It's like a whole bunch of police photographers. It's like it is clearly intimidatory, and as we now know, purposely so. I mean, it's been, that's what we've heard in the last, few days of evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I used the opportunity for the fit being outside all the meetings to go to less meetings. It was just, like you just didn't want to go to them because it was incredibly intimidating, and it wasn't just meetings and programs. I mean, they were also outside benefit gigs and other social gatherings that you might go to. And I mean, like she talked about the fact they were in her dreams and like she was having nightmares about them. I can totally relate to that. I remember, having similar fucking feelings, similar dreams, similar nightmares. She talked, in fact, about how the biggest threat to the to S2S undercover officers was actually the overzealous forward intelligence teams. They gave them a much harder time than any of the activists ever did.
Yeah, well, over enthusiastic policing, as it's quoted in, I think, the authorizations, which basically means violent policing. It's like a euphemism for that, isn't that? So.
Yeah. No, I mean, very blatantly, and I mean, it did make. I mean, they did make it feel very unsafe to be mobilizing the fit, and I mean, I'm sure the SDS officers felt that as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, one of the other briefly, I don't know how long we want to go on, Tom, but okay. Well, I mean, we didn't really go into. Emily also talked about the specifically traumatic experience of being arrested at the G8 in Scotland when she chose a role, a non-arrestable role, so she thought, of like basically ferrying activists in a minibus. Clearly pretty innocuous, really. Right, exactly. But she ended up getting swooped on by dozens of police, and she was with a baby at the time, got separated from a baby. Oh, what do you mean? Clearly traumatic experience in itself. When they got arrested, they were taken to court, and they were initially told they weren't going to get bail, they're going to be remanded. And just like imagine, just pure trauma. And then obviously because somebody from the SDS had a word, because there was 2 undercovers also arrested, all that got dropped all of a sudden. But that was and it was actually interesting that in the statements both Dave Evans, HN60, and Bishop both said the only thing that Emily agreed with them on was that those arrests were like completely unjustifiable. Well, I think the point is because if the undercovers weren't present, because they'd done this such a violent high budget arrest, so to speak, they probably would have ended up being charged with something.
Yes,
or at least been remanded initially, even if the charges were dropped further down the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was that thing of like, it's almost like it was a slight sort of insurance in the end, having an undercover officer with you with such a bullshit thing.
We know that's happened on many occasions, like charges being dropped, because of that. So.
We've had some comments. I'll just go through them. And Emily Apple a day keeps the spy pigs away. If only that were true. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but she was absolutely fantastic today. I'm expecting last-minute restrictions or suspended broadcasts. Hope I'm wrong. I mean, it is entirely possible. We've had in the past where live videos have been taken down after the fact because the inquiry's changed its mind about restrictions. Peace if you're willing to fight for it. Another world is possible. And the political policing discouraged us all. It was vicious and unrelenting. It really was, and I think I think Emily really brought to life that in a way that was really it really it really illustrated it, and in a way I haven't really heard before at the undercover policing inquiry.
Yeah, exactly. I think it really, today that sort of connection between the overt and covert policing was made, underlined.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's something we've said a lot of times, that like these things do not exist in a vacuum. They kind of, they've got a symbiotic relationship. They feed into one another, and both have the effect of intimidating people out of protest, which it is chilling, and it does undermine the supposed democratic nature of the society in which we live. Overall, I think Emily was an excellent witness. I'm really, really proud of her. I think she did fantastic work. She started the day saying, "Oh, I just want to make a statement about how something might seem inappropriate when with my reaction to very traumatic events."
Yeah,
she wasn't at all for 1 second. I mean, this always happens when people do that sort of caveats. She came across as very, very, as she is, very calm and collected and like knowledgeable, and across all the detail that was that was relevant to what she was talking about. Is there anything particular about the whole day that you'd like to comment on?
I think I've said, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, thanks for joining us. That is the last civilian witness of this tranche of the undercover policing inquiry. We return tomorrow with the live evidence of the questioning of the undercover police officer HN18, Robert Hastings, who was in the cover name Rob Harrison, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, No Borders, Grand Park Social Centre, State of Emergency, along with a bunch of other groups. He'll be questioned over 3 days, and most significantly is his sadistic sexual abuse of Maya, which we all heard about in detail last Wednesday. I hope it's Barr who's doing the questioning of him.
You would have thought so.
We would have thought it would be. There's been so much detail. We've heard bits of it today. We heard lots of it last week, which I don't think he can get out of in any way. I
wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't turn up.
I mean, like, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we haven't had. I think Lee Bosner was the only undercover officer who didn't turn up.
That's right.
I mean, we got notice the day before that she wasn't going to turn up. But I am waiting for the day when we turn up. We're all sat there, ready to go, and the witness just no shows.
Yeah.
And it would be. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that was the case tomorrow. I do feel. I do feel he's. I always say this: he's the worst one since the last worst one. But I mean, he is particularly odious.
I think he's worse in this. Well, I think. Just because the fact he was an undercover officer gave him that opportunity. But even if I heard about that situation, what he'd done, and even if he wasn't an undercover officer, it'd be absolutely fucking awful to begin with. The undercover part is the aggravating circumstances of what he done.
Yes.
There's
a lot to suggest that this wasn't a one-off either.
It seemed unlikely that level of abuse was like his. You would have thought that he. Not an expert in that field, and I don't pretend to be, but we know from abusers generally build up the level of abuse.
Yes.
So it seems unlikely that was like his, the first woman that he done that to me.
Yeah. Deeply disturbing. Please join us again from 10 a.m. It is the last week of this phase of the inquiry. We will be finishing on either Thursday or Friday. It could go on to Friday. It's probably unlikely. We'll be back again then on the 15th of June. We'll be hearing from the managers, which
beginning with Bob Lambert.
A week of Bob Lambert, I believe.
Yeah. Easily replaces Glastonbury for you.
I know, right? At the same time as I was quite relieved that Glastonbury wasn't on this year because I wouldn't be missing it for the inquiry. But now I've found out that it's going to be Lambert who would be filling those times where I could be in front of the pyramid stage. I mean, what an absolute horror show. Those who remember him giving evidence during the last time he was here as a field officer, I mean, it's going to be like wading through treacle.
Well, I think it's going to be worse because he's got in practice now. He's like, it's like what I mean. Sorry, I had to get into a sporting analogy, like watching Jeff Boycott bat for like 20 days or something, and pretty boring.
It's a deep cut. I have no idea what that means. I'm guessing he was a very boring batsman.
Yes, he was.
Right, yeah. Well, cricket aficionados, enjoy that. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you all tomorrow. 10 a.m. start. We'll be doing a preview video before the hearings begin. You're coming again tomorrow, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
Expect more cricket analogies during tomorrow's reaction videos. Bye for now. Thanks for
Bye,
joining.
cheers.
Please